Hello, and welcome to the AWS Executive Insight Podcast. My name is Ian Wilson, and I lead Senior Talent and Transformation at Amazon. And I'm joined here today by Ms. Edith Cooper, a member of the Board of Directors for Amazon as well as PepsiCo. Prior to that, had an extraordinary career of almost 30 years at Goldman Sachs, including a role as a CHRO. And 7 years ago, co-founded with her daughter, Jordan Taylor, Medley, which is a group coaching platform for leadership development. Edith, thank you so much for joining us here for this podcast.
And thank you so much for having me. Having this conversation with you in the context and ecosystem at reInvent has already been an extraordinary experience, and I'm sure the next few minutes with you will be the same.
Last year, you shared some of your philosophies on leadership, workplace culture, human connection, customer. Fast forward a year, and here we are. Looks like the world has changed again or continually. With all of that change, have any of your core perspectives changed?
It is really important to have a core sense of values with respect to leadership. Amazon has the leadership principles, and other organizations who are important, who have continued to reinvent and evolve and innovate, have those values. Why is that? Because you need that core consistency to be able to navigate and to capture opportunity for periods of change. And the incredible pace of change with respect to technology and AI, Agentic AI, large language models, is front and center to almost every conversation I have, whether it's interacting with leaders across the world, or whether it's talking to students who have just graduated from university who really want to understand how is this going to impact my work, or people who are working now who are really wondering, how do I position myself for that change? And so it is different, but the same in the sense that people really want to know how they can continue to be relevant and to create impact, either as individuals or as leaders, because the uncertainty is clear. The investments required are also very clear. And when you have to invest the capital in terms of dollars and in terms of thought and talent and people, you often want to do that with a clear roadmap of how you're going to get returns. It's harder to do that now, but it's clear that the investments need to be made because the opportunities and impact are unquestionably going to be significant.
And the thing about things that don't change, for us at Amazon, customer obsession is just absolutely foundational. Our mission to be the world's most customer-obsessed company, one of our leadership principles is customer obsession. So how do you think about the role of customer when it comes to how organizations are thinking about the investments that they're making in AI?
For Amazon, it is about the customer. And for Amazon, it's particularly important because of the breadth and diversity of businesses that sit under the Amazon umbrella. And so what does that mean? It means that the company has to make choices, as most companies do, particularly now when you think about the investment, not only in terms of capital for the infrastructure required for AI, but the human intellect and the focus and the change management that's required for AI. And so driving it from a number one priority like Amazon does for its customers really helps, I believe, prioritize where you invest and how to invest, because it's uncertain. I think we would all agree that it will certainly impact everything from the way people work, how people shop, how people get information, but how is that actually going to play out? A lot of uncertainty there. But as an organization, Amazon and other important organizations stay close to what customers are thinking and what customers are needing. And it helps create guardrails of prioritization with respect to how to think about the way forward.
Yeah. And an important way to navigate through opportunity and uncertainty, then being clear about the core purpose. And yes, for Amazon, customer is at the absolute center of that. Well, let me ask you this question. So a member of the board at Amazon as well as PepsiCo, talking a little bit about uncertainty. I'm curious, how are you seeing companies at the most senior levels, or how are boards helping companies think about navigating through some of this uncertainty?
Well, first let's just highlight the most important role, or the role of a board of a public company, and that's governance. And that is to ensure that the commitments that are being made with respect to all aspects of the business are positioning the company for shareholder value. We spend and must spend a tremendous amount of time, not only in the boardroom, but as individuals, to really get up to speed on the whys. Why is AI important? What aspects of the business will it be relevant in? What am I doing as an individual? It's kind of similar to what it is in working in an organization to ensure that, you're close enough to the functions and the developments to be able to ask the questions. When I think about the board members of Amazon, there are certainly board members who are, as individuals, thought leaders and innovators in the space. But generally, it's our role to make sure that we are asking the questions that prompt the thinking that's required to make sure that the allocation and the prioritization makes sense for all of the different priorities that exist in the company.
And I think that level of engagement, that curiosity, the investment that you and some of the other board members are making and understanding what is the rationale behind the investments, how do we think about it, to your point, continuing to fuel the innovation of the company is so incredibly important. And I think for so many of us in the company, to feel that level of engagement and curiosity and, frankly, endorsement of some of the bets that we're making as a company is very reassuring. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. The other thing that I think it's really critical to highlight here is that one of the biggest investments Amazon makes, PepsiCo makes, any organization makes, is in its people. And Andy Jassy has done, I think, a very thoughtful, honest, and balanced job of really talking about, what is known and what is not known with respect to the implications of AI on the way people work. And the most exciting thing for me about AI is that it empowers humans. It empowers the human work. And I think that for me, that's how I think about all of these things with respect to the talent equation. AI and all the tools that are related to it really are giving us opportunities as individuals and leaders to craft the future of what work looks like going forward.
Well, it certainly won't surprise you to hear that I too am optimistic about what these technologies and what these tools can do for us as people to help us individually be more fulfilled, to achieve more, to be more successful. Certainly out there in industry, there's a fair bit of narrative about how AI might take humanity out of the work and out of the opportunities that we all have. But can you share just your perspective on that? How might AI actually enhance the human connectedness in the workplace?
I think that AI has the potential to enhance the human connection, but I think we have to be very intentional about understanding what that means. For so many of us, success and progression through organization has come from being a subject matter expertise, often knowing the thing, knowing how to do X. And then over time, being able not only to do it yourself, but to impart that knowledge on other people. That's actually how you got to know people. I mean, I remember back in the day, I don't know, back in the day now means, 5 years ago, many of the things that we have learned are most important to people in the context of Medley are things that might have been viewed as soft, right? Listening, communicating, problem solving, outside of your comfort zone. That's not viewed typically as being soft. But how do you learn those things? You find people whose style resonates with you, and you look at people and you're like, I'm not going to be like that. But the reality is that human connection, the judgment, the intuition, the instinct is actually what powers the experiences in Medley that will increasingly power the connectivity within teams and organization. And we really, as leaders, need to recognize that and invest in helping people develop those capabilities.
Yeah, the way I think about it is technology is evolving very quickly. Artificial intelligence is a new major paradigm shift of technology that's creating all new types of tools. But the reality is that who we are as human beings isn't changing all that much. And there are some durable core human needs that we have as we relate to each other that I believe will be enduring even as we go through these changes.
the reality is that humans in our composition don't change all that much, but the context in which we operate is changing almost by the minute. We are a reflection of our environments, where we're from, how we've been brought up, places we've been to school, where we work, what countries we're from, what alliances we have. And it is complicated, particularly in this environment that we're operating in now, to really be able to parse all of that at hello, right? At hello. And so one of the things that I think is super exciting about the space of humans is the complexity of humans and how we can actually use some of the ways that we've come to rely upon in terms of how people operate to empower a better way for all people to be able to thrive in the environment. And that's one of the things, Ian, I've been super excited about the work that you're doing in the talent and leadership space and learning from you and your team and others in the PXT group at Amazon. And that is, all right, Amazon is customer centric. One of the most important customers of Amazon are our people. And how do we make sure that we're applying that customer first mentality to creating environments where people are excited about coming to work, or coming with an edge to innovate, to question, to challenge, because that's where things are exciting and things are going to happen. And what better place than in Amazon to really be close to that evolution?
Yeah, so let's dig into this a little bit, because you are right. I think about this a lot. Talent development. How do we help people learn new things, acquire new capabilities, apply them so they can continue to grow as a human being, so they can become the best version of themselves? But in an era where skills are changing very quickly, the technology is changing very quickly, what are companies to do with that sheer rate of change?
I don't know about you. There are days where, I start my day and I'm like, all right, be brave, find out what happened overnight. But that's the reality of the world that we live in. And I would also venture to say that change has been a constant for generations. I think what's different about this is that it feels that it's so quick and so existential and so expensive in a period of unknown. But I think the way that you navigate is to know that you have to navigate and to be really intentional about it, to communicate, to explore, to recognize that there are going to be challenges associated with it, that it will impact some people in a very exciting way, and that we have to think about how to empower as many people from as many different demographics to feel that it's an opportunity versus their demise. And I'm a real firm believer that, as an industry, as a society, we will be successful if our customers and consumers are successful. We will thrive if our people thrive and are inspired to do the hard work that is going to be needed to come up with the answers of what the future looks like. And that, for me, is what drives my thinking.
I think that's right. And especially, again, as humans, we make tools that we use, right? And I think AI is the latest generation of that, and all of the opportunity seems to be there as well. Let's talk about leadership specifically, because especially going through changes like this, leadership's always tough, but especially in times like this, it can be very difficult. One of the things you shared last year was that as a leader, all of us need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and such wisdom, isn't that true? As the year has gone forward, what else? What are some of the other leadership capabilities or competencies specifically that you think are important right now?
Be bold and care. And we recognize that not only is it a rapid pace of change, it's very unfamiliar to people who don't live in the ecosystem of technology innovation every day. And so I think that it's really important to care and to recognize that we all are on a learning curve journey, and that we have to really inspire, especially those that are subject matter expertise, those to believe that you must and should prioritize being on that learning curve journey.
Yeah. I think responsibility is absolutely key. I love your phrase, be bold and care. And there's another word you used a few minutes ago that I'd like to pull forward, communicate, especially in a time of uncertainty and change as a leader, preparing yourself, forming your vision, but actually communicating. And what I've experienced in my career, going through change, supporting people through change as a leader, you feel like you've communicated enough. But I'll tell you, I've never had anyone come to me to complain that their leader was communicating too much.
Yes.
That they had too much clarity or too much context. So I think especially in this time, as leaders are taking their organizations through this, communicate, so that employees know what's expected and know how you are actually supporting them to be successful.
And that's why we can go back to the beginning of the conversation and talk about how important it is to be tethered to leadership principles, core values, particularly when you don't actually have all of the answers. When people say we want to hear more from leaders, I would suspect most of them want you to tell them what's going to happen. What's going to happen? Is it going to mean my job is going to go away? Is it going to mean that, I'm going to need different skills? And do I have any idea what those skills are? The list of questions that people want answers to is very, very long. And I think one of the things that most important is to have developed the trust with your people, with your colleagues, with your customers, that journey through uncertainty is one that you're on together. And that people, therefore, will have more and more confidence that it's okay not to have the answers. And so I think for leaders, I think that the thing that I would suggest very strongly is that uncertainty is not a reason for you to say nothing. Uncertainty is a reason for you to say more, even if it is, we're going to figure it out together.
Yep. And
you're part of the solution.
Right. And that's leadership, right?
Yes.
Giving direction in the face of uncertainty is very much, fundamentally leadership. Thinking about the individual experience, how people are supported. One of the ways that we talk about it at Amazon is we want people to thrive after. Once we go through this change, we want you to be thriving. Do you have a sense, reflecting on all of your experiences and all of your expertise, what does thriving look like at a workplace where you have humans and AI working together?
I think that it is really critically important to know that you are empowered and that you are accountable, and that people look at you for answers. I mean, I've had this experience. I'm sure you have. When you're with someone who you really respect and they know a lot about something that you don't know, or they might be your boss or your boss's boss's boss, when they say, Ian, what do you think? Oh my God. It's like, what? You all of a sudden, game on, right? You're going to show up in a different way. You're going to sit forward. You're going to be engaged in a different level. So when people thrive, it is often because they feel like they are going to grow across a number of different dimensions. They feel that they're going to grow professionally. They feel that that's the growth is going to manifest itself in some of the things that are important. Your stature, your title, the trajectory of your compensation. And why? Because it affects the way that you think about yourself, and it affects the quality of experience for your of life for your family. But I think what we're realizing and recognizing is that it's even more than that, because you can't and shouldn't, I believe, promote someone every week, right? But you can engage with people and help their intellectual and professional growth. You can give feedback so that they feel that, someone cares about them thriving. And you can push and encourage people to take opportunities, to take risks, to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Why? Because it indicates to them that you believe in them, whether they're going to hit a home run. I should be careful with sports analogy. I'm kind of a sports person, but I understand a lot of people are not. Whether they can put themselves out there to question, to say why, and you're not going to, bat them down and say, who told you to speak up, but instead you're going to go, that's an interesting point. Why do you think that? Those are the things that help people feel like they're part of the organization, that they're part of the answers in periods of uncertainty, and then that they will thrive. And then if there's just one other thing that I always have to comment on, we really need to create environments where people feel like they can show up with their genius and that they're recognized for whatever genius they bring to the table. And that's across every single dimension. Organization, Amazon gets that right, it will absolutely continue to be one of the world's best places to work. You lose the genius and all the things that we know are important from a customer-centric perspective could come into question, because if you're not paying attention to your people, how are you going to pay attention to your customers?
Yes, yes. I love that suite of ideas that you offered. Engagement, supporting for growth, recognizing people's superpowers. Another one that I've been thinking a lot about, especially with AI, is I think people want to feel accomplished. I think most people want to do a good job. They want to get some sense of fulfillment from that. And I think some of these AI tools have the potential to help people individually, collectively as a team, part of an organization, be more successful, achieve more. They have such a sense of accomplishment of what they've built, what they've delivered, what they're putting in the hands of customers. And I think to the degree that these technologies can empower more people to feel that essence of success and accomplishment, I think it can mean a lot to a lot of people.
Building is a powerful thing. And that's one of the things that I've recognized in the time that I've spent on the board of Amazon and getting to know leaders like yourself at Amazon, is that building ethos. Now, I've been in and driven high-performing organizations, and so, impact and results is not foreign to me. But the construct of building towards that, the vocabulary and the sentiment is super powerful and very relevant to any organization, whether you're a tech-forward company or not.
Okay, so in the time we have left, there's one other question here related to AI, because we've been talking a lot about the potential and all the opportunities. Like pretty much everything, there are some risks to this. Specifically, when we think about using agentic AI technologies in the people space, how do we make sure we don't run afoul of biases or things like that that could be amplified through the technology?
It's not new territory to think about how do you leverage technology to get smarter, to mine more resumes, to evaluate people more effectively, et cetera, et cetera. But I just think the common thread through all of that is a sense of responsibility to ensure that the information that you're getting and you're utilizing is appropriately informed, not just informed, that there is a level of judgment and interaction to ensure that you're not moving forward on data that's a reflection of the past, but really positioned to take the information, to question it, to engage with it, to position your thinking for the future. If you sat down with someone and they just delivered the answer that you wanted in the minute, how'd you feel about that? It's like, with no stress? Sounds great to me. I said, but we just spent all this time talking about how we want to move fast, break things, right? How are you going to do that if someone's just delivering the answers that you want in the minute? And so these are all things that I think we really have to challenge ourselves to own and think about, which is the tools are incredible. Getting the information and the data is so powerful. I think that it's incredible. But I don't think anyone would suggest that you're going to take any of that information and hit go immediately. No, what you're going to do is you're going to get to the information that you're going to need to use your judgment, your brains, and your science and experience to get to the application that really makes the most sense.
And do the things that humans do so well.
Yes.
So Edith, I can tell you, I could spend hours talking back and forth with you on these topics. Absolutely a privilege to hear your thoughts today. Thank you so much for spending some time. On behalf of the team and all of our listeners, just wonderful to hear your incredible insights. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining in. Be well and go out there, get involved, and seize the moment.